I was asked to talk a little bit about, actually about starting branding, but this really came out of developing our publicity and image plan for our branch, which is branch 17 in Santa Rosa. And we had a little bit of motivation for this. Our branch was coming out of COVID hibernation, I'd call it. And we noticed that we'd had some declining membership, but we realized it wasn't just declining because of COVID. Actually, between 2019 and 2020, we'd only lost 2 members, and we've regained those since. But it's been over the last 13 years, we've gone from 125 members down to now in the low 80s. So we thought we needed to revitalize things a bit. And we've also noticed that there was declining membership in all sorts of organizations, just not SIR. Our median age was increasing. As been noted in the past, that makes it difficult to get new leadership in. Other branches have become inactive or dissolved because they couldn't find leaders. So we figured our one-on-one recruiting that we've done traditionally wasn't enough. And finally, we like SIR, and we think we have something to offer that's important. So we wanted to do something about it. So it started with a series of RAMP meetings and with all the RAMP committees, but then broke down into a series of specific meetings focusing on publicity and recruiting. And we did some brainstorming and trying to figure out how to get new and younger members. And so we thought about, well, what are the past branch practices? We looked at the recruiting materials that we had, and they were woefully out of date. Looked at the SIR resources, and then we started brainstorming, coming up with some of our own ideas. I wanted to talk about the state site because there's a lot of stuff out there, and not many people in our organization knew about all the resources that are here. And I started mining that and bringing it to the committees, and that was very useful. So one of the things we looked at specifically was the SIR RAMP toolkit for building branches. It has some materials for self-assessment, best practices, and listing efforts that other branches have used. Looked at the forms that are available, the branded marketing materials, and the SIR brand style guideline. We noticed that there was a new site, the public site, We Are SIR. I actually, when I joined SIR, I didn't know about We Are SIR. So I went to the SIR Inc. and I tried to think, well, what does this have to do with people, recruiting people? It seemed like it was obviously for members and leaders in the organization. And then we started looking at some of the SIR branded and branding videos. I wanted to point out one thing in particular. When we posted the marketing and public image plan video from the this year's annual meeting, that's when it really hit home about marketing and branding. And I really have to point out Mary's presentation in particular, because a lot of these things that we've been looking at, it felt like we didn't know exactly why these things were being pushed towards the branches. And Mary actually took the time in that presentation to explain the power of branding and how we could amplify our message. And so we decided to run with that. One thing we did is we put the plan on paper, started with an introduction, defined our committee and what our goals were, and then we did some discussion about the new SIR image and the target audience. And this was before it was very clear to us what that image was, but we could infer it from some of the new materials that we were seeing. Then we created a section on specific actions we could take or we're going to take, and the current status of it. We saw this as a living document, something that we would continually be adding and taking things out of it. Things might work, other things might not. And so we wanted to keep it active so that it's not stagnant, but we also want it written down so that it provided a record of what we were doing. We looked at places that outlets, I'd call them, for new materials and our regular announcements. We looked at physical venues, things like dropping brochures off at the golf course and grocery stores, barber shops, those sort of things, churches. News media. One of the things we ran into is a lot of newspapers use CitySpark on their websites to post events. It's really hard to get events into at least our newspaper these days, except via the online site. And when they do post events, highly curated, focusing on events, arts, wine, those sort of things that are popular in Sonoma County. But when you do post something on a site that subscribes to CitySpark, it can propagate to other sites as well. Radio stations, similar, they have event listings online, and some will do public service announcements. So we put a whole section in our plan about articles, press releases, interviews, and public service announcements, things we wanted to explore there. And then finally, I have to admit that I've never been a big fan of social media, but it became apparent that it's something we need to do to get out to our new target audience. And so we looked at Facebook, Nextdoor, YouTube, and Craigslist. Craigslist, you ask, why would I use that? Well, I found out I was looking for something else there, and I found someone who was looking for an organization that had activities for men. So I replied back to him, and actually I think he was up in Placer, I don't know where it was, someplace up in the foothills, and referred him to the SIR chapter there, but that's another source. One of the things we found when we started putting things out on the news media is that there was overlap with other branches in areas. Putting it on the Press Democrat website also went to every paper that the company that creates the Press Democrat, all their other papers. So we were actually posting in other people's territories, which is something we had not planned to do. We realized that we needed some coordination between the branches for event announcements and marketing and that sort of thing. So we also thought we need the coordination of next door neighborhoods and posts because we were doing some of those. Likewise, Facebook pages and groups. Then we established a system and a set of procedures for regular distribution of new materials and announcements. And we worked with the branch's webmasters to update our website to reflect the new brand, style, and image of SIR. That's still ongoing work. And we produced and began distribution of new publicity and recruiting materials. Let's see what else. Finally, we wanted to ensure that existing members are aware of our materials and encourage them to recruit potential members and encourage members to actively engage potential members, not just passively. We want to make sure that our guests, our speakers, and our new members are given special attention during our meetings. Part of when we talk about recruiting, in business, we often talk about recruiting and retention, because it's a lot harder to recruit somebody than it is to retain them. And so we were focusing that. We want to have everybody have a good experience. And then we've been working with our activities and member relationships committees and our activity context to develop posters describing the individual activities. We want to display these at our meetings so new people can see what we have to offer in a little bit more depth, and we may make those available through our website as well. Current status, we've developed new materials and we're waiting distribution until the beginning of the year. We're kind of winding down for the year. There were some uncertainties earlier because of COVID. We kind of had a start-stop in terms of our meetings. One thing we do think is important is the meetings because, frankly, people don't really get a sense of what CER's about on a Zoom meeting. And we didn't want to be trying to recruit people and bringing new members in through Zoom meetings. We started regular posting of events on news, radio, and social media. And we have a branch-specific Facebook page and group. But we haven't used them too much. They've been actually in existence for 4 years. And we just don't have the activity to generate much interest. One of the things we thought about, and we're exploring it, is a county-wide Facebook page. And the idea behind that would be to kind of amplify the inputs from a whole bunch of different branches. And so we're working on that. And how's it going? Yeah. Well, I'd say it's too early to tell. We don't know what's going to be successful or not. We need to get a little bit more experience. Sometimes we're a little impatient and want to say, well, I put that Facebook post out and nobody, didn't bring in any new members. Well, it takes a little bit more than that. So we're going to try to exhibit patience. We'll be monitoring and doing some analysis of of the new members as they come in. And we don't expect everything that'll work, but we will document it, both successes and failures in the plan. And we've learned some lessons along the way. Some of the old approaches don't work anymore or don't work as well. We also found that we get into any organization, particularly a volunteer organization, everyone has an opinion. So we have to learn to be flexible in working through those things. Need to engage all the RAMP committees in building your image. It's all part of the same image and they work together. We have to embrace new technologies and get the word out. Like I said, I was resistant to social media, but it's something that we just need to do, particularly for our new target audiences. Consistent branding style helps us amplify our message. And that's one of the messages that Mary got across to me. And I think that's something that we can see how it will work now. Some advice for everybody, whether it's a branch or at the state level, do remember that CER is a volunteer organization. Communities can be different branches. You have to do what works in your area. Not everything, we have some actually not in our area, in our region, a branch that has a different approach to the recruiting, and it seems to work very well for them. But they have some resources in that community that we don't have. Remember that we are not trying to recruit just our friends and our current peers, but a new, younger membership that will be our future leaders. And that's something to consider whether you're a business or a volunteer organization. I highly recommend that you create a written plan that takes and puts it down, and it has some continuity that can be passed on. um, you must expect some resistance to anything that appears to be a mandate. I think there was some resistance to some of the marketing materials that came down because we didn't understand those marketing materials. We thought they might be just mandates. You're going to do it this way. But once we understood those, we changed our minds. And this points to the need to provide clear and direct communications and support, whether it's at the state level and down or within the branches. And that's our plan. And I open that up to any questions there might be.
You had a question from Steve Schramm. He asked, what's the cost of implementing your plan?
Well, we have a huge budget at this point of $225, but we've had some promises of augmenting that as well. Because a lot of the stuff is through electronic communications and social media and even through the news media online, we haven't had a lot of costs other than the production of actual marketing collateral, cards and brochures and those sort of things. So it's a fairly low cost plan. I think that that's one of the beauties of social media.
Question from Mark Bosch, branch 47. Are there any branches that meet on Saturday? Often guys who still work can only attend on weekends. I don't know of any branches that meet on Saturday, but it doesn't mean.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear that.
Are any branches meeting on Saturday? I don't think you probably know that, but I don't believe there's any branches that meet on Saturday.
I can confirm that, Rick. I did the analysis one time. Nobody meets at a weekend at all.
It doesn't mean they couldn't if that's what the membership wanted to do.
Absolutely. I've got my hand up. What I wanted to do was to add to the word recruit and use the word attract. We have to attract new members.
I think that's a good point. I think that one of the issues is we have, and I think it comes from the state in terms of roles, is we have a recruiting chair.
Yeah. So
I don't know how he would feel about being the attraction chair, but that's part of the historical viewpoint, and it's a good point that we really are trying to attract new people.
Well, one way you could do that is if you're asking him to do twice the work, in a sense, pay him double.
Are we in trouble?
No, pay him double his salary.
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble.
We would double his salary for doing two jobs.
Yeah.
Okay, pushing it along, if you don't mind. Could you move on to your next topic, please?
Okay, let's see, bring up the second one.
We'll come to Jim Caratasolo's question at the end, if you don't mind. Okay. Jim.
Okay, so we made some comments in our plan, and we actually provided a copy of our plan to the state image building committee. And it was noted that we talked about an area-wide Facebook page. And so they asked me to talk a little bit about our thoughts on that. This has not been implemented, but we'll talk about what it is. This goes back to what we were talking about, where our attempts to attract people spill over into other areas. We have to realize that our county, and we kind of think of ourselves as a county, actually intersects with all four areas in Region 3. So my friends in one city, they're in a different area, and people in another city where I meet people, they're in a different area. And so the idea was to create an area-wide, not meaning area-specific, Facebook page. And the idea was that we could post news and everything on those things. We saw that the event postings were going up, but also on social media. So our concerns over infringing on other branches' territories was really our motivation. And we thought that we really wanted to market SIR to the benefit of all branches in Sonoma County in order to amplify the SIR message. So I thought I'd talk just briefly about the differences between pages and groups. Facebook pages are for companies, organizations, or public figures. Their purpose is to connect with their audience, their community, the people we're trying to reach, to communicate with. Facebook pages are public. You can't make them private. And the groups are intended to be community-centered on a common interest, which we do have that common interest between all the SIR branches. The purpose of a group is really to offer a way for people to interact with each other, and those can be private. The idea of a county SIR Facebook page would need buy-in from all the branches in the county. So we're starting to see cooperation from the branches, the areas, and the region in order to try to build something here. We realize we need some transparency in this process. We just don't want to go out and create a page and say, hey guys, we got this page and you're in it. We also realize it's very important that if we can get some active participation from the individual branches in the area in this page, because that is really how we amplify the message. We'd also need to establish roles so that each SIR branch could have an editor on the page, and so they would be able to do postings and change things, and for the purpose of talking about their particular branches. So the idea, a single county-wide Facebook page for Sonoma County SIR branches. It would focus on SIR in general, who we are, what we do, and the benefits of membership. We try to, through this page, provide linkage to individual branches, either through Facebook pages or websites. We provide descriptions of the branches and their contacts, and encourage all branches to post on it. We also want to start using hashtags as a way of getting the message out. And these should be fairly simple. They could be things like hashtag, we are SIR, or fun, or social activities for men. Keep them simple and short and to the point. We'd have to solicit likes from our branch members, generate lots of initial posts with branch-specific posts, general posts about SIR, the YouTube videos that are available, the SIR website, and the We Are SIR and .com. We figure that individual branches can make regular posts about their meetings and their activities, and then have members solicit likes from their friends, have people follow it, provide links to the branch websites, and encourage the use of the new SIR brand style. And that's kind of the idea behind that. Now, the idea of Facebook groups, we do have a Facebook group. It's branch specific. It's for communication between branch members. It can be private, and you can promote it among branch members, host meetings and activities, engage members in conversation, put lots of pictures on it, and encourage discussion. So this is more of a branch-specific resource. So I was asked to give a brief idea of how to create this. I want to make sure I'm not an expert on Facebook, but it can be fairly simple to create a Facebook page for your branch, or if you're doing it, want to do an area one or something. It's simple. Once you're logged into your Facebook account, you'll notice over on the left side, there's some things. So I go down here to pages, click on that, and the very top of this, it says up here in the left corner is create a new page. Oh, how hard is that? You click on that and it asks the name of your, what you want to call your organization. It's going to ask what kind of organization and a description. You start filling that part of the form out and you go down and say create page. Let's see, I got here, I put as an example, SOCO-SIR, Social Activities for Men, a nonprofit organization, and then a brief description of it. You click create page and you've done it all. Actually, let me go back to that for a second, because once you click that create page, it's there, but like it's got this kind of placeholder image there for the organization. Now you can go in and start editing it and producing, put an image in there that you want for your group, and you can add more information in there, start posting videos and photos and things. And so there's a lot of stuff you can do once you've created it. As far as doing a group, it's very similar. You go over to that left column from when you log in from your home and click on groups, and looks down here, and you see down right here below here, it says, it shows groups I've grown, but it says create a new group, and you put the group name in. You can make it private if you wish, and then make it visible. And then you can optionally invite friends, or you can do that later. And then you just say create, and that's all there is to it. So with that, I'll take any questions that may remain.
Neil, if we were using this to recruit new members, wouldn't we have to make it public? I mean, we want.
Well, if you're going to use a group to recruit, you would. It depends on what purpose. Like I said, the real purpose of a page is to recruit new members. The group allows you, by making it private, to keep it within your membership.
Okay.
Now, I guess there was some conversation about how things get spread out beyond that, but I don't. Like I said, I'm not a real expert on Facebook marketing.
Okay, we have a question from Dennis Pangburn. If you unmute, Dennis.
Yeah, Neil, within your area, branch 17 in Santa Rosa,
Yes.
Healdsburg branch 157 and Windsor branch 168 are the two branches that are in a different area, but geographically they are very close to you, and I totally concur to include them in your overall recruitment too. That would be really a great idea.
Yeah, I think like I don't think Windsor is not. Yeah, Windsor is a part of this. Petaluma is a part of this. We can't really separate those things, and
yeah, I think it comes down to teamwork as well, which is a topic that's come up several times in these meetings. If we can work as a team in the area and region, it's better for SIR as a whole, and all the branches benefit, not necessarily the branch that's putting the page up. And I think that's terrific if that works.
So we'll keep reporting on this. We'll see how it goes. We've had some meetings with different branches, and then we'd like to work with our area and regional governors to spread out to other branches and see if there's some interest in doing this.
Does anybody
Fantastic presentation.